Hello everyone, and welcome to our SevOne training video. Today's training video is on the User Role Manager. Now, the User Role Manager can be accessed by going up to the Administration tab, going down to Access Configuration, and selecting User Role Manager. Once inside User Role Manager, one of the first things you're going to want to do is go ahead and add a user. This can very easily be done by going down to the bottom here and selecting Add New User. You'll see that there are all kinds of information that's filled in, name, email, username, credentials, so on and so forth. Go ahead and fill in those credentials, and then once that's complete, go over to Role Assignment and assign it a role or roles. As you can see, there's multiple roles that can be assigned. You may not want to assign it Administrator, but you obviously are going to want to assign it some role within the User Role Manager. Once you are complete, go ahead and click Save. In my case, I will click Cancel. Now, the SevOne platform uses role-based permissions versus user-based permissions. So each role is given a set of permissions, and you can assign a user those permissions based on the left-hand side here. Think of the User Role Manager as having a superset of all permissions, and anything below it in the nested structure has a subset of those permissions. So as an example, we'll use the CH-WAN here. You'll see that CH-WAN does not have access to user management or user role management. So by default, both the East Coast and West Coast will not have access to that either. You'll notice that neither of these can actually even see those permissions because CH-WAN does not have those permissions, so those two nested structures will not have those permissions either. Another thing I should mention is that these permissions are additive across roles. So if you assign somebody to the capacity planning team and to the LAN team, they will have a subset of permissions for both. They can do anything the capacity planning team can do and anything the LAN team can do. So now I'm going to go ahead and go through these tabs on the right hand side here. So let's start with the Permissions tab. Page permissions are pretty straightforward. They correspond to a page that you can get into within our system. User permissions are equally straightforward. But if you do have any questions about anything inside the User Role Manager, anything in the SevOne NMS for that matter, you can go ahead and click the little question mark in the upper right hand corner of the NMS. What this does is this brings up our NMS manual, and in our case, it brings up how the User Role Manager works. If you scroll through, it will go ahead and answer any questions that you may have with inside the User Role Manager, and it will take you to other pages inside the manual if you'd like to read more or need more information. It's good to note that any changes made inside the User Role Manager should be saved. That can be done by going ahead and clicking Save Changes. If you do not click Save Changes, once you leave this page, any changes you will have made will automatically default back to where they were once you logged in. Okay, now that we've gone through the Permissions tab, we're going to go ahead and take a look at the Device and Device Group Access tab. Now, on the right-hand side here, you'll notice that we have Group View, Group Edit, Device View, and Device Edit. Group View allows a role to see that a group exists. So if we go ahead and look at the West Coast, you'll notice that they are able to see Chicago, Dallas, Denver, but they are not able to see Hartford. So as far as they're concerned, Hartford doesn't exist, New York doesn't exist, and Newark doesn't exist. So they cannot see those at all. So we go over to East Coast, you'll notice that they can't see that Dallas, Denver, Hartford, and Napa Valley exist, but they can see that New York and Newark can. So you can go ahead and assign each role what they're supposed to see, so they cannot see more or less than they need to. Now, Group Edit allows a user to edit the name of a particular group. So, say we want to go ahead and change the name of Boston to, I don't know, New York, New York. They do not have the ability to do so. That's probably left up to the system administrator. Device View allows the role or roles to see the devices within a particular group. So, because they are on the East Coast, they should be able to see what's inside the Boston and Chicago folders because they are dealing on the East Coast. Device Edit allows the person or user to edit the configuration of those devices in a particular group. So the next tab that we're going to go review is User and User Role Access. Now, for instance, you'll see that the East Coast does not have any user or user role permissions. But if we go up to CH-WAN, you'll notice that they have a list of permissions. Now for the capacity planning team, you'll notice that we still have 4 columns on the right-hand side again: role view, role edit, user view, and user edit. Just like before, role view allows particular roles to see other roles inside the system. You'll notice that capacity planning can see that the LAN team exists, but they have no idea that the server team or the firewall team exists inside the system. User edit allows the role to edit the name of a particular role, just like before. User view allows the person or role to see the users assigned to a particular role. And user edit allows a role to edit the user information or credentials assigned to a user. Now typically, user edit is left to an administrator, but sometimes you would like to grant it to a parent of a nested structure. So for instance, like the CH-WAN, you'd want to be able to have user edit for the East and the West Coast so that they can make particular changes for either one. I'd like to thank you for watching this SevOne training video, and we hope it was helpful, and have fun with the system.